the meeting. So if you don't wish to be on the call, or your face to be on the call, please switch off your video now. So our 7th and unfortunately final session, lunchtime session, I will hand you over now into the capable hands of Saqib. So please help me welcome Saqib.
Hello, everyone. It's great to be here. And actually, I mean, I've been introduced a little bit. So I kind of started off at a youth leadership program many years ago in Saudi Arabia. I've been part of Toastmasters in a couple of different countries. And when Danny asked me, firstly, when Danny told us about this training bureau that's happening, I realized that it's something that's been missing for some time, is having something regular where people can attend again and again. And one of the things that we have in the UK, which I think is a little bit unique compared to many other countries, is we don't have a lot of corporate clubs, at least in the Midlands. You have these huge companies. Myself, I work at Jaguar LandRover, and nobody's ever brought up a Toastmasters club. We have a lot of members at Jaguar LandRover who go to Toastmasters, who are members of Toastmasters at community clubs around the place, but we have 6,000 people on one site and not a single club. Whereas I've seen other places with multiple clubs and they only have like 300 people on site. So I found that very interesting. And so I think some of these efforts that have been launched by the DLT, the district leadership team this year, have been really useful. And we've been allowed to kind of explore a lot of very new, very different things. I'm going to start off with sharing a PowerPoint. I know that a lot of people, sorry, while we sort that out. So I think, Danny, it's saying host has disabled participant screen sharing. I don't know if you can make me co-host or if you can enable that. So I think you can just click on my name and allow screen share. So one of the things that a lot of us are facing a challenge with is with corporates, most people who are working full time, you're in Teams meetings or Zoom meetings 5-6 hours a day. For me, sometimes it's like never ending. In fact, it's become worse than it was pre-COVID. We didn't have as many meetings pre-COVID. It's just now where you would walk to someone's desk and speak to them for 5 minutes, you now have to actually create a meeting with them in the invite calendar, and then the standard meeting is 30 minutes, and then when you start off, someone's always put themselves on mute, and then someone else gets added to the meeting, and now it's like 4 people talking, and something that would have taken you a quick conversation or something that's called water cooler chat is taking a little bit longer. On the other hand, we have some huge advantages. I was very excited because we've been able to incorporate so much more international collaboration. It used to be a difficulty as a corporate as well. We have multiple sites, Jaguar LandRover. We have like 4 sites around the Midlands, and I used to find myself on any normal day, sometimes I'm over at the site in Coventry, then I'm driving over to Solihull, then I'm driving over to Wolverhampton because there's an engine issue. And the fact that everything's online now means, well, you can dial into the meeting from anywhere. It's also meant that Toastmasters meetings have gotten very interesting because people are dialing in from all over. And in a work environment, I remember I was speaking to my manager about, I really miss my parents. They're over in Pakistan. I haven't seen them in kind of 18 months or something. And she was like, by the way, if you want to, just go spend 4 months over there and just work from there. So we have that flexibility and that capability. And it's kind of this forced experiment in remote working that has gone so successfully that a lot of us have kind of missed out. So I just wanted to start us off with a Slido poll. I think I can do this correctly. So what's going to happen is you're going to need maybe a second device if you have one available. Let me just see if I can set this up in a new tab. Brilliant. So you can join, either you can go on slido.com and just put in that number, or if you have your phone or tablet next to you, you can just scan that QR code. Once you go in, we can create a word cloud. So if anyone has their phone nearby, you can join on slido.com. I picked this idea up from Daniel because he ran it in one of the trainings. And again, it's something that it's a new sort of opportunity that we've been offered because of the online system, is that everyone's standing there with multiple screens. It's so easy to screen share. It's so easy to screen share, so easy to use these tools, and everyone's become like a technical expert now. Danny always says at the start of a meeting, he's like, "Oh, you guys know me. I won't be able to share screen because I'm not the best with tech." But actually, uh, every meeting I've been with, everything has run like clockwork. All the screen share has gone perfectly. Everything's been fine. So how would you describe your month so far? You can put in multiple answers, by the way, if you want. Fast, repetitive. Um, Someone who said repetitive, feel free to unmute yourselves at this point, by the way. Someone who said repetitive, why do you say repetitive? What's been repetitive about the month?
Hi, Saqib. I said repetitive because I feel like we're just going through Groundhog Day with lockdown. So it's you get up, you have your breakfast, you start work, you finish work, you do an exercise class, you have your dinner, you watch TV, and it's just the same thing over and over for the last 2 months.
And I feel like my weekends are the same
Yep.
because the way I've got my desk set up is I've got two shelves underneath. I've got my personal laptop and my work laptop. And the only thing that's different on weekends is I come into the same room and I switch on a different PC. But that's pretty much it. We can't even people have been shielding, etc. You can't even go for a walk. Invigorating and exciting. Those are very interesting. So people said invigorating and exciting. What's special about this month that's made it invigorating and exciting?
Hi, I'm Jennifer. I found it invigorating because I started a new role before Christmas, and it's to do with changing the whole landscape of how UK does digital plus rail. So it's looking into the future as to how we might exist within UK post-lockdown. So very future thinking.
That is very cool. That is very cool. I know a couple of people who've started new roles in lockdown, and one of the things they've said is that, like, the weirdest thing is that I've never seen my colleagues in person. It's harder to ask questions, but again, it's really, especially the industry you're working in, that's really cool. My wife's a dentist and she's doing training posts, and she's like, I have some of these colleagues that I've worked closely with for like 6 months, but I've never seen their face. And so she's like, if I ever see them outside of work when they've taken their masks off, I'm like, who's this? Because she's like, I've only seen their eyes because they're always fully PPE'd up. Overwhelming, grueling, stressful. Anyone want to share some thoughts on that?
Yeah, Samir here. I'll jump in. When people ask me how I'm doing, I say I'm doing well in the overwhelm. I'm one of those that's taken on a new role this year. I saw it coming at the end of last year, so I kind of braced myself for it. But it's like I'm not drinking from the fire hose anymore. I'm drinking from the fire hydrant now. And it just seems I'm having to learn so much, meet new people, and keep Toastmasters going on at the same time. So yeah, doing well in the overwhelm.
I'll just say your office, by the way, is so well lit. Like, your background, that looks so cool. That shelf has clearly, everything's been put with a lot of thought. So I really, really like that. I really like when people have kind of, I think that's a physical background, or is that a virtual one? It's physical, so that's
It's
so
the real
impressive.
deal.
Yeah,
It's the real
that's the
deal.
real deal. That's so cool. So some of the stuff you said about the overwhelm, like at the start of our meetings, we used to at the start of lockdown, people were like, "Oh yeah, I feel really overwhelmed. I don't know how long we can keep this up." And now, kind of, that's the norm. Is that every day is crazy, and you're not really used to taking a break. I have some coffee cups around me because I'm on like 3 cups of coffee this morning because I've been so busy. So this is really interesting, and kind of, I just wanted to get a little bit of a feel for it. I also appreciate people are giving up their lunch break for this. And so kind of sometimes you feel like even something like Toastmasters is increasing that feeling of overwhelm. It's just another meeting to attend. And it's so important, especially now, to make it a little bit different, because in normal days, people have things to do, but ultimately, if they come to Toastmasters, they're getting a one-to-one physical experience. They're meeting these people, they're meeting their friends. Whereas with COVID, ultimately, they're just joining another Zoom meeting. So what is the biggest issue that you have been having with online meetings? And you can put multiple words as well if you want. There's not too many of this. I've got one more question, and then kind of I'll go into a little bit more, and then I'll try and come back. Interestingly, Slido only let me do 3 questions for free. So I was a little bit annoyed at that. I thought I could do longer. Okay, managing your mic. That's very interesting. IT issues, which are so frustrating. We have so many IT stories. And I realized at work that some people use IT issues as an excuse. So they're like, oh yeah, my mic's not working. And I'm like, don't lie. Like, I know you're just in the kitchen making a sandwich. Nobody's believing this. Too many meetings that could have been an email or could have been just turn around and ask the guy a question. I have been in so many meetings where I've come to a point now where I just walk out. I just leave the meeting because I'm like, I don't really want to do this. Online meeting fatigue, engagement, people not having room to speak. So if one person's having a conversation, we see a lot of this kind of talking over each other in teams because organically it doesn't really happen. You can see when someone's about to start talking, whereas on online, especially when you don't even have your video on, it's so much easier to do. Headache from the headset all day. I would genuinely recommend investing in a new one. So I've got this Jaguar one which I can keep on for hours, and I don't know if I've got them here. I got these new buds. They're like Apple AirPods, but they're made by a company called Soundpeats, and they're only 20 quid, and they are phenomenal quality. So what I try to do is, because they connect wirelessly to my phone as well, so I actually switch between in-ears and these so that you have a little bit of variety. Hinders emotional intelligence, definitely. We're really losing something on that. And if we have a generation raised on these Teams and Zoom meetings, we're going to have a problem. You're on mute. I actually panicked when I read that. I was like, what? Have I been on mute all this time? So again, that happens a lot. Interruptions, not having the time to join. I think in terms of trainings, one of the things that we've really found is it's really hard when someone's in your environment. For example, you're doing a meeting in a room. You have a lot of control over it. So you're able to keep people engaged. If you realize the room's getting very hot or people are getting really sleepy, you can kind of turn down the thermostat a bit. You can invigorate people that way. You can bring food into the room. Whereas if they're online, they're in control of everything. You can't control if they have tech issues. You can't control if their kid comes into the room and they're distracted. You can't control if they switch their camera off ultimately and they're off doing something else. Or I think someone said multitasking early on. So background distractions, all of that. It's very, very difficult, and it's so hard to keep people engaged. Last question, what format do you prefer thinking long term? Do you think online meetings are better? Do you think physical meetings are better? Have you converted to hybrid options? So do you think long term Toastmasters will go for hybrid options? I like this live. I think you guys can see the live changing tracker as well. So yeah. So I think people are a little bit saturated with online meetings. By the way, there were some clubs before that existed on online only meetings pre-COVID. Like I was part of something called Witty Storytellers, and they had members from all over the world. And I think there used to be a separate region just for online meetings because they weren't associated with anyone. But now kind of every club has become online. So hybrid options are very interesting. And the reason I brought this up is there was a recent meeting of the Toastmasters International president who actually spoke about this. And they actually said that the future of Toastmasters is going to be hybrid meetings. We have an interesting hybrid meeting toolkit that has been put together. And one of the clubs in my area, Godiva Speakers, they actually have like a shopping list that they've set up. So we did this whole training where they actually went really deep into it. I was very surprised. There were a bunch of engineers, so they took a very engineering approach. They actually drew up a floor plan of how they wanted it. They had like the speaker on this side, the person on this side, and I can share that slide pack with people after this if you're interested. They also had a little shopping list. So they bought a podcast quality mic. They bought an extra webcam. They bought a used TV on eBay. So every meeting they come in, they tape down their wire so it's not a tripping hazard. And it was a lot of work. They only did it in July, I think, for 3 or 4 meetings when they had the permission from the government. to do it. So a hybrid option is where you have both being offered and you're trying to give the best experience to both. So you'll have some people who join on Zoom and you'll have a projector or a TV screen where everyone who's there in person can see. And the way these guys had drawn it out was they had a kind of tables on either side, so facing each other. That's where the people are sitting. Then you have a stage, and then across from the stage, you have a television screen, and then you have a number of cameras. So the people who are online can see who's speaking. They can hear them very clearly with the podcast mic. They can interact, they can speak, and they can use the TV speakers, or they have external speakers set up. And someone's in the middle. The Zoom master has a very difficult job because they've got like this high-powered laptop which is running everything. And you can engage with everyone on there. And they had some good feedback. They actually shared some of it in the slides. Another advantage they had was it was a physical meeting happening in Coventry, but they had guests dialing in from India, from the United States, from Malaysia, all in the same meeting. So it really exploited the international aspect of Toastmasters. Okay, I'm going to go from that and come on to my main point, which is everything we've talked about in terms of Zoom, hybrids, all of these things. What we need to offer people is it's not just another Zoom meeting. It's something different to all the other online meetings that you've had today. So when you go into a Toastmasters meeting and you leave it, and I really liked the person who picked the word invigorating. I think it was Jennifer Elavik, because that's Toastmasters should leave you at the end of the meeting. You should feel kind of a sense of invigoration. You should feel connected to people. It's very, very hard to achieve that, but what we're trying to do is bring variety to meetings. So you're breaking the pattern a little bit. You're giving people something different, because for most people, including myself, we've probably got a subscription to like 5 different television streaming services. We've got Netflix, Hulu, HBO Max, Disney Plus, all of those things. So many of them are giving like free packages as well. So for me, the decision at the end of a hard day of work, of being in this office, is, do I want to spend another 2 hours here in a Toastmasters meeting, or shall I just go zone out in front of the TV and just watch, I don't know, Netflix, and watch some dead show that, let's be honest, I've probably watched before or don't even care about. But it's still more kind of, it's like, oh, I can just sit there. And if your Toastmasters meeting is just that, it's just you're going to sit back and just watch the TV screen, that's what people are going to feel like. And then, I'm sorry, but those guys spent $10 million on their production. You didn't spend $10 million on your Toastmasters meeting. So if I'm not engaging, then I'm just going to go over on Disney Plus. So how do you bring variety to meetings and keep people interested? So we've talked about some of these things with the Zoom paradox, which is there's no geographic limitations. I used to drive to Coventry. So going to a meeting from Birmingham, where I live, it took me like 35, 40 minutes to drive, plus 35, 40 minutes back. Plus, when you're leaving the meeting, of course, you're going to get sidetracked. You're going to have a little conversation. So I was leaving the house at 6:30, 6:45 for a 7:30 meeting. And then I wasn't home again until 10:30, 10:45. And my wife was like, are we just housemates now? Like, what's going on? Whereas with a 7:30 to 9:30 meeting, if you're only doing it live, my bedroom is only like a 30-second walk. So my commute has become drastically short. So that's really good. It's much easier to attend. We've been able to collaborate more in terms of the cross area. This district training bureau, where we're doing a training every week on a Tuesday, this wouldn't have been possible if we had to do it ourselves. We wouldn't have been able to kind of deliver this. We wouldn't have been able to do some of the officer trainings that we've done. Many of us might not be able to attend the conference, which is coming up in May. Luckily, it's in Solihull this time. But even for us, like maybe some of us wouldn't have been able to attend in person. We have a big presence in Ireland. Maybe they wouldn't have been able to come. We wouldn't have been able to meet so many people, even in our officer trainings or regular meetings from other places. It's a more comfortable environment. One of the big things that people are worried about at Toastmasters is, you're public speaking, you're in this new place, there's like lights on your face, you can't really control it. There could be someone making a sound in the background. Here, you're at home, so you're really comfortable. You can wear pretty much whatever you want. And in fact, actually, this meeting's been good. So my work meetings are all audio only. So I don't tend to kind of dress up. Today, I actually I put on like a shirt, and I was like, oh, what shall I do? Shall I wear a formal shirt? Or I actually get very excited for like Toastmasters meetings. I'm like, oh, I need to do my hair. I can't look rubbish anymore. Because a lot of the time for my work meetings, some people who've been there, I'm actually just sitting there like in my bathrobe, huddled up, especially my first meetings in the morning. I've literally just crawled out of bed. The cons are, of course, getting zoomed off. It's very easy to switch off the video, mute your mic, and then kind of do your own thing. I sometimes, I think I've heard someone at work say that they keep an ironing board near their desk, because if the meeting's dragging on, they just start doing some ironing in the background. Like, it's very productive, but I'm not sure the other people in the meeting would like that. There's no in-person connection, you know, the handshake, the kind of meeting people and seeing everything about them. You don't have that. The background noises, connectivity issues, mic got disconnected, someone's doing a little bit of scratching on their mic or something. And so all of these problems occur. So first things, from a Toastmasters meeting perspective, it's more important than ever to do the basics right. So having a good agenda, and what we have the luxury of doing at in District 71 is we have very powerful website, the Easy Speak website, which will create the agenda for you. I think we have some people from Siemens, and the only requirement for, so Siemens have just started this, and I mean, we've started talking about this, that they were doing the agenda manually. Sometimes it can be easy to slip up. Sometimes it can be really hard work for the Vice President Education, the VPE, to actually go and kind of verify with everyone, oh, are you sure you're okay with this role? That kind of thing. Whereas this has made it a lot easier, right? You just tick some buttons and everything's good. Like, everything is confirmed. You get your agenda easily. You can actually put in the time details in this. Make sure you have an enthusiastic Toastmaster, because you're trying to transfer that energy across to people. People are used to the work meetings where we're like, okay, guys, we've gone together today. I'm just going to put the minutes file up, and we're just going to do, and that's every single meeting for 6 hours. What you need is someone who's going to come in and say, hello, everyone, welcome to Toastmasters. I'm loving this energy. You want the type of people whose housemates think they're bonkers, because that's how they behave in a meeting. Good first impressions. So one of the things I'd really recommend is, if you can join the meeting like 15 minutes early, open the room up in advance, and have like a rota, and make it a role on the kind of on the agenda. Is you're going to have some meet and greet people. So you're going to have like a pre-icebreaker, or everyone who comes in is going to be greeted. You want good first impressions. Tell your committee members at least that if you're in a meeting, look like you're smiling, because sometimes you've got like something else on the other screen. You could be getting a chat or something which is like, oh, we have these major issues that are happening, and this person looks really intense as they're looking at their screen, or they're doing something. But you want people to be smiling, looking straight at the camera. I've invested, again, it's like 20 quid. I got this, it's some company called Lirape, but it's a good HD video webcam. And it makes a difference. From my PC, they did this weird thing with design where they put the camera underneath the screen. So normally, if I'm just looking at my laptop, it's like you can see up my nose, and I'm like, no one wants to see that. No one needs to see that. So I just got an external web camera that sits on top of my my screen, and it just makes the view a little bit better. It gives me a little bit more kind of breadth in the view. So I think it's 85 degrees instead of your standard 60 degrees. So you can see more of my arms. You can see more of this calendar as well that I've got on the wall. Spotlighting is very, very important. So one thing you can do on Zoom, the host can do this, is, for example, I've just spotlighted Danny for everyone. And so if you do this with your speaker, they'll become the spotlit person. So they'll pop up on everyone's screen. And it kind of brings you back as well, because something big changes on your screen. So if you were kind of looking off on the other screen doing something, suddenly you're going to look again. But also it allows kind of people to look at, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be looking at. Don't get distracted by the gallery view where someone's having a sandwich or something. Timing is very, very important. So you can actually get these backgrounds for Zoom where you can change your camera in the background. And those, again, are very, very useful, very, very something you should always implement. So this is blue, then you can have green, amber, red, and therefore you're actually showing people the timing as well. Those are the basics, very important to do. Encourage people to switch their videos on. Now let's talk a little bit about some weird and wonderful things you can do. So some of these ideas are taken from on screen. This is actually from the Twitter of a Toastmasters club in India, DJ Toastmasters. I think they're in Chennai. This is from Peaky Blinders. So I'm from Birmingham. You can do a theme of Peaky Blinders. Everyone has to dress up. One of the things I realized is, especially with Zoom times or lockdown times, we've got all these outfits just sitting in the closet, right? There's I don't know how many of you are on TikTok. If you're not on TikTok, stay away. If you're already on there, then kind of we're doomed. So there's a common TikTok which is about all these nice outfits that I bought but never got a chance to wear. And people are like, I bought this, I bought this, I bought this, and I never got a chance to wear it. So now's the time potentially, even though it's only on Zoom, but you can set up your camera and then you can come to a meeting all dressed up. So that's an option. You can run a whole meeting like the Oscars. So the Toastmaster of the day is the person who's chairing the Oscars. Every speaker is someone who gets an award, and so when they come to take their award, their speech is actually in kind of an award speech. I'd like to thank the people out there. If you're like Snoop Dogg, it's like I'd like to give a big shout out to myself, and I'd like to thank myself. So every speech is like the Oscars. You can do a Harry Potter special if you're a Harry Potter fan. So this picture is actually from that. So someone went and created a sorting hat, and they put the sorting hat on people's heads. Now, I'm not super duper tech savvy, but I have been able to kind of use Canva to create something where you can actually have like your own filters that you create. So you could have a sorting hat filter. Every table topic speaker comes on, they're going to put the sorting hat on their head, and then we kind of divide them into a house. If you've never watched Harry Potter, you're probably like, why is this guy speaking Chinese? What is a sorting hat? What is Gryffindor? But if you have people in your club who are interested in Harry Potter, again, that's a theme you can explore, and people can wear their merchandise if they have any, or they can create their own wands and things like that. The flight. So the Toastmaster of the day is actually a pilot, and they come on and they say, welcome to this 88th meeting, but you say 88th flight of Godiva speakers, or whatever Toastmasters club, JLR Toastmasters. I'm your captain today. We're going to be cruising at an altitude of 0 feet, or like I live on the 2nd floor, so we're probably on an altitude of like a couple hundred feet or something. So again, the whole thing is like a flight. Every speech is a flight attendant coming on to make an announcement, or like it's duty free coming on or something like that. You could do a quiz throughout your meet. So again, you don't have to change the theme completely. It can be like a pub quiz, which is, one speaker is going to deliver a pub quiz, or instead of table topics, we're going to do a pub quiz, something like that. Again, one of the points of this is to keep everyone engaged. They've done something for this, and so they're going to talk about something. Or if you're doing like a Peaky Blinders theme, everyone's going to talk about their character. Looney Tunes, so everyone's going to pick their favorite character, maybe wear one bit of their outfit or something like that, and they're going to talk like that. The Toastmaster of the day is going to come on and be like, what's up, doc? That kind of thing. You can run it as a television newscast. So the anchor is, and everyone's going to speak in a slightly different fashion. So today we are joined by and everyone's in a different city anyway. So I can see that Stephen, I think that's the Gaydon office at JLR. So we can say we're joined by our news reporter, Stephen, who's going to do a story on the pigeons that have taken occupation of some of the JLR offices. And then Stephen can actually deliver that session. So you can run the whole meeting as a television newscast. A time machine. So someone explored this idea of we're going to explore a different time period. And again, if you're like me, you've been watching so many shows that you'd never watch in your life. Like Bridgerton is a show that if it wasn't for COVID and me being at home for so long, there's no chance I would have watched that show. But Bridgerton is on Netflix, so you can do a Bridgerton theme, and I become, Lord Moosa of Birminghamshire or something, and everyone gets their own title and all of that. And you can have a lot of fun introducing people with this. Again, we're talking about a lot of corporate meetings. A lot of corporate meetings are shorter. They're only like an hour and a half. Some of them are 45 minutes. So you don't have to have that much content to actually fill in those 45 minutes. Those are some ideas you can implement. Room layout ideas. One of the things that we used to do at physical meetings a lot was we would do change the layout. So we'd have like a U shape, and then we'd set it up as lecture theater style. At Godiva, we had a stage, so sometimes we went on top of the stage and switched the lights on. At Spa Speakers, I've seen that they sometimes change it around. So they used to have like a open air, and kind of you can see the surrounding area. It's like beautiful countryside behind the speaker. Then they'd sometimes change it around, so it was the opposite. And so you can do all these things in room layout. Teams has got this feature. And so again, maybe you do a special meeting on Teams instead of Zoom ones. I know some of the clubs, especially the corporates, if your company's using Teams, then everyone's kind of on Teams already, and you might not be able to install Zoom on your company laptops. So they've introduced this together mode. Actually, when lockdown started, Zoom was by far the best software for online meeting. And actually, I think there's been like 14 updates of Team. Like they've updated the software so often that actually Teams has become really, really good now. So they have this feature, which is the together mode. You can be under the sea. You can be on a boardroom. I think this is actually a special themed boardroom, which is like some countryside retreat. You can just have people sitting like this, and I think there's like number of different formats that you can do, and you can actually do your meeting like that, so you kind of feel like you're in the same room. So you can superimpose people into these different layouts. It's a little bit annoying if you don't have like a green screen behind you. Sometimes your hand like disappears and starts floating, and that's why, for example, I don't have a virtual background on today. Okay, some other ideas. We saw Slido with word clouds that we used. We saw, I used this earlier in the club officer training. So I used part of the slide pack. So he actually used something called menti.com, where you can actually check in and it will put your dot on a map. So it's very similar to slido.com. So again, it's just a tool where people log in from their other device and do something. We've been doing something with team meetings at my work, is we've started using Kahoot. So someone will go and find some Kahoots, and you can find Kahoots on various different topics. So we had like a lot of fun with the Disney princesses theme. We did like three Kahoots in one team meeting, where we did like all the different Disney princesses, and people were naming themselves and doing all sorts of things. You can do a reverse meeting. So our immediate past district director was John Cox. This is a very interesting meeting format to try, which is you start the meeting upside down. So you start with the general evaluation. The general evaluator says, oh, in today's meeting, I found that the meeting started late, and we had this happen and that happen. And the Toastmaster of the meetings of the day, he said the word juxtaposition like 7 times. I'm not sure why he did that. He just threw it in there. Now, the Toastmaster of the day, throughout the meeting, he has to go do these things because the general evaluator has said he did them. So to make the evaluation true, you have to go and do the things that the evaluator said you already did. Then you have the kind of the speech evaluations before the speeches. So the speech evaluator says that today we had Samir do this thing today, and Jacob Hammond, who was our second speaker, he read from a book the whole time, and he was wearing a funky hat. I'm not sure why. So now you have to go and do. You can make it funny, or you can just make it like a normal meeting but challenging. But it's a reverse meeting, so everything kind of starts off like everything's going upside down, and it's really confusing to kind of manage. But if you have, it's a challenge for your team to implement that. Maybe you need some advanced Toastmasters who have some experience of this to kind of guide it. But again, the advantage with Zoom is that you can actually get special guests in. So if you wanted to run a meeting like this, you could find John Cox and say, by the way, we have this meeting on this day. Can you join us? Or can you join our committee meeting and tell us how we can pull this off? Everyone come in and tells 2 stories. So this is something I'd recommend, even if you're running just a normal meeting, but start off with an icebreaker that looks like this, or if you don't already have a warm up or greeter role in your meetings, introduce that so that at the start of the meeting, from the offset, everyone has spoken. At the start of the meeting, you can run it like a debate. You can do all roles in a virtual hat, and then you're going to have like a random role generator, and you're going to assign everyone roles based on that. You can have progressive stories, which is I'll start off a story. The classic example of this is that game that we used to play as children. I went to camp last year, and I took with me an apple, and the next person has to build on from that, an apple and a tent, an apple, a tent, and something else. So you can kind of have progressive stories. I start my speech off and I say, I went into this dark room and I was really scared, and then the next person has to continue the story on, and eventually you're going to have this really weird story that kind of flows, but it doesn't really flow. So it's very interesting. A speech marathon, so you're just going to have back-to-back speeches with no evaluation if you have a lot of people who because of COVID or something haven't been able to get their speech slots. The gourmet kitchen, so we did this at lunchtime. I saw a few people had their videos on at the start, and you could see them like munching away. So the gourmet kitchen is kind of, if you're doing your corporate meeting at lunchtime or dinner time, we're going to have like a working lunch, and then everyone's going to talk a little bit about their food and what they're eating today. It can get embarrassing because for me sometimes, like, my lunch is literally like the first thing I found in the fridge. So people will see, or if you did it at breakfast, mine would just be like, this is this grape I found in the fridge, that's my breakfast today. So maybe you need to tell people in advance that. But again, it's kind of different ideas. You're breaking the pattern up a little bit, and you're forcing people to speak more. Last few points is, don't be shy, reach out to people from all over. People are Toastmasters are very interested in attending different meetings. So if you found and I saw a couple of people who did this, they found the international speech winner from like 2018, and he's this guy from abroad. They reached out to him and they said, can you come to our club for kind of a half-hour slot? And he was like, yeah, sure. So now you have this really valuable experience, a valuable insight from this person who's won the international speech contest, and they're coming and giving you a talk, and they're just attending another Toastmaster meeting. You can advertise it internationally if you're putting it on Facebook, if you're putting it on Meetup, all these things anyway. I've actually found that clubs who do this regularly frequently have guests. Like, you'll just have this person coming in, and kind of you call them out and you're like, oh, how's everything? It's like, yeah, it's 2 a.m. over here. I'm in Hawaii at the moment. And you're just like, wow, this is so cool. Or this person's joined in from Malaysia, or we had like guests over from China. It's just really interesting. You're like, oh, what's the weather like over there? It's just interesting that we have this. Like, I remember someone was talking about this. They were like, if people from the medieval ages were able to see that, like, my head is superimposed into so many people's houses right now, and I'm just talking to them and they're listening to me, they'd be like, it's nothing short of witchcraft. So you can dial international people in. Do joint meetings with other clubs, especially if you're struggling with attendance or something. What you could do is that once a month or once every 2 months, we're all going to get together and do a big meeting. Your area might be interested in this. If you have 4 clubs in your area, you can actually do a giant table topics meeting where everyone comes together. And it's something that we used to struggle with before. We used to do like social events, but sometimes it's really hard for people to drive up and everything. Now it's just online. Explore regular collaborations. You can use breakout rooms to have, like, one of the things people complain about is at the moment there's like, I think 26 people on this call, or maybe even more. How do we speak one-to-one with each other? We used to have the ability back in the day of just chatting. So firstly, leave the chat open so that all the participants can speak to everyone directly. But also, if you have some networking time or a break, just have a breakout room open, or maybe like 10 breakout rooms open, and then people can literally just assign themselves to one and just jump into that. So it's like, oh, I just want to have a conversation with this one person on the side about some topic. Okay, we'll just open a breakout room. And this is how networking works online. Open meetings with everyone and anyone invited. You can lift your kind of complete restrictions, and you'll run it like an open meeting. Again, it gives you the potential to have a lot more members. It's been interesting that a few people I know from here, they're like joining meetings abroad as well, and they're bringing back very interesting aspects that we didn't have in District 71. Change your agenda through EasySpeak. So EasySpeak allows you to set up a special template if you want to. So I've got a couple of clubs now, they've got like a special meeting template, and they're like, we're going to do this regularly now. We're going to do an extra meeting every month. And it's so easy to create the agenda, and then you just hit auto assign. So people who can attend, they can just attend that. And we have the template already created. So it's not like you have to kind of do the agenda from scratch. It doesn't feel like a special event. Organizing it only takes like an extra 20 minutes or so. You can do certificates. I really recommend this, is do your certificates on MS PowerPoint. So, the best table topic award, all of that, do that. And you can create as many awards as you want, because previously it was like, oh, we only have these 7 certificates that we've printed off, so we can't do any more awards than that. Now just write whatever you want on the PowerPoint, print it off and mail it to them if you want to post it. If kind of a lot of clubs have extra money sitting around now, so it's only like 65 pence and someone gets a letter in the post. Maybe that's not best for the environment, I don't know. Maybe you can just email it to them and they can print it off themselves and hang it on their wall. but you have the ability, because of the soft option kind of just sending a soft copy of everything over. I have put a lot of references in, so I'll share the slide pack out with you guys. I've put some articles on creating a quality club, innovative methods. I think there's a hybrid, best practice for online club meetings. I think there's a hybrid toolkit somewhere that I'll also attach to it. So all of those things that I can send around. And those are just some ideas. I'd be very interested to see what other people have tried, what other people have kind of enjoyed seeing in other meetings that they've seen, and kind of getting you guys feedback on it for what can we do differently in some meetings. Another thing Zoom allows, I think, is if you hold the space bar, it puts you on unmute temporarily. So if you're clapping or something, you just hold the space bar and do it, or something like that. So you can encourage people to mute and unmute so that they're actively there, and call them out to speak.
One thing we tried at Leicester Leaders the other week was when people actually come into the meeting before it starts, you know, this sort of like that 16 or so faces who don't know what to say and somebody's having a conversation. Well, what the president did was actually put people into breakout rooms. So we had some guests. So you put a guest in with a couple of experienced Toastmasters. And that went really well because they were able, you know, sometimes if a guest comes in, they don't perhaps know many people and they just get overlooked. And I just thought that was a good way of starting the meeting. And we always have a quiz at the break. There you go, Saqib.
Yeah, everyone's sitting with their kind of phones nearby, so quizzes are super easy to run. Kahoot and stuff means that the quiz is already there. You just kind of pick a 5-question quiz and use it. So yeah, I don't know if anyone has any. Sorry, go on.
I did I think that, what was it you called it? The progressive storytelling, I guess.
Yeah.
I did that as an active listening project as a Toastmaster the meeting. So I had us tell a story, all the table topic speakers, and I'd kick it off. And then to show that I was listening to them, I bridged it and connected it to the next part of the story. So I would give the next speaker the opportunity to progress it. So that kept it kind of consistent, but was also in alignment with the Pathways Project for Active Listening. That went really well. It was very well received.
To Samir's point, I think it's very important whenever you present a new activity to point out what is the purpose. So it's very good that you say this is, you know, to enhance your listening skills.
Yeah, and it keeps people engaged, because it's too easy in tabletop if someone else is speaking to just kind of drift off. And then when you get called on, you listen to your question. With this, you can't, because you need to know the previous speaker in case you're the next speaker.
Also did, oh, sorry, go ahead, Paul.
Sorry, thanks, Samir. Saqib, sorry, I came late to the meeting. I just caught the word cloud just as I entered. Where would you actually say to use the word cloud? Would that be right at the beginning of the meeting as part of a Toastmasters intro, or as a specific activity, you know, within the speeches or between the speeches?
I think encourage people to maybe put it into their speeches if they can, as a form of interaction. But actually, I would put it, maybe you could do it in club business where you want to engage people, and maybe you want to get some feedback on generally how people are feeling. You can even have it as an icebreaker at the start. So you can just have like a fun question of what's your favorite this, or something like that. I've seen it used in icebreakers a lot, where someone puts a question out there, kind of a generic question, where are you from? You put your thing on there, it comes up on the word cloud, and then they use that to call out on people. So say, oh, someone said Coventry. Oh, you're from Coventry. Okay, can you kind of tell us the, you know, something like that. Can tell us some details about where you're from. And it just shows you kind of, especially if you have a meeting where people are dialing in internationally, there's some that will automatically stick out and you can pick on them and make it as enriching. But it's not just the people who got called on who were engaged. Everyone was involved in something.
Brilliant, thank you.
Another one we did to make Toastmasters, sorry, table topics more engaging and to kind of encourage that listening was we'd have impromptu evaluators after each speaker.
Yeah.
So then
anyone can call out.
Yeah, and so everybody has to listen because you might be called on to evaluate.
That's pretty good. I think someone said they did a hat night for their Christmas meeting. So Adrian suggested, yeah.
I'm curious how the reverse meeting goes, you know, especially given that, you know, we are here to grow. How did the speakers actually get evaluated if they're evaluated before they speak?
I think what they said was that for this one, I think some of the speakers either didn't have an evaluation or they told someone privately that evaluate how I do this, because actually the challenge in this is that you've got your speech prepared, but we're not actually evaluating your delivery of your speech. We're evaluating how well you can follow the instructions set out by the evaluator. So it's like an added challenge. You have to deliver your topic, which you already prepared. You don't know what the guy's going to say. And you have, like, let's say the evaluator goes first, and now you have maybe 5 minutes to add in those things that they talked about. And then you can have like a private evaluation in the background with your mentor or something where you're like, by the way, do you think I implemented that stuff? It could even be a speech that you've already done previously. So you're comfortable with the subject because you know there's going to be a spanner in the works. And depending if your evaluator is feeling like giving you a big challenge, they might even put in something really weird there. Like he spoke with no consonants for a full minute. And you're like, how am I going to achieve this?
Okay, I could see that working really well for, you know, if you had a lot of speakers doing the second speech in project 2 on level 1.
Yeah. They can just do their
you.
repeat with the evaluation. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think it depends how serious you want to make it, because I've only done this once and everyone was like in a funky mood. So all the evaluations, like they just said these unreasonable things that you'd never do. And you kind of had to bring them into the speech. We were in person for that. So like one of them was like, oh, this speaker started dancing. And then the speaker had to dance. It was like, this is so funny. But I think you could probably do it in a more serious way as well to make it challenging.
Well, Saqib, if there are no more questions or answers, we did say we'd let people, if they wanted to go at 1:45. We've gone past that, but thanks very much. You have covered an awful lot there, and I will arrange for the PowerPoint to be distributed to everybody. But, you know, your enthusiasm does shine through, Saqib. I think somebody put in the chat about it's infectious. So thank you so much for doing that, Saqib. And thank you to everybody, as I said at the beginning, everybody who has attended these sessions. I think we've had a lot of high quality speakers, lots of good stuff for people to take back to their clubs. What I was going to do was email everybody just a short questionnaire just to get people's ideas about how it's gone and what we can offer in the future, and whether there's perhaps potential for putting on an occasional, maybe on hybrid meetings or something like that. But it has been a great success. It's been great to see everybody turn up week after week. And I wish you all success in your clubs. Daniel, I don't know if there's anything else you want to say.
Well, other than to wholeheartedly thank you, Danny, for helping District 71 deliver this programme of corporate officer training through the lunch breaks. I think we've done very well utilising the situation that we're in with the access to online technology, the access to trainers, the content, that we were able to develop in discussion with other people. Of course, yeah, personally, it's been wonderful working with you, and it's been wonderful working with so many of the officers and so many of the clubs and getting to put names and faces and companies on maps and all sorts of things like that. And I really do hope as the district goes forward, it takes these ideas forward and continues to carry on with corporate officer training and programs like that. And we do something to remove some of the disconnects that can seem to crop up between our Toastmasters in our corporate programs and our Toastmasters in our community programs.